Hello there. I'm a day late reviewing 2002's Minority Report. Welcome to the year 2054, Washington, D.C., Department of Pre-Crime. Now you may ask, what is pre-crime? Here in 2054, human psychics with the powers of precognition exist, and they can see murders happen up to 4 days before they actually occur if they are planned. If they are spontaneous events, such as a husband accidentally catching his wife cheating on him, the lead time on that is much shorter. In the case of the opening scene, the police have 15 minutes to determine where the crime is going to take place. Meet Chief Inspector John Anderton, head of the D.C. Pre-Crime Department. Life is about to get very interesting for him, because the feds are investigating the Pre-Crime Division for flaws and ways to take it over for themselves.
The 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, "I'm from the government and I'm here to help."
Meet Danny Whitmer from the Department of Justice. He wants to see how everything works. He insists on going into the room where the precogs are and is shown how everything works. The precogs are lost in their visions and are not aware of the others in the room. As everyone else leaves, Anderton sees Agatha open her eyes and he moves near her to see if she is aware of him. She bursts from the pool and grabs him, saying, "Can you see?" On the screen above, we see the murder of a woman by drowning. Anderton then goes to the prison they have for those arrested for pre-crime. He wants to see Agatha's vision of the drowned woman. Strangely enough, there must have been some sort of glitch because they have the twins' data, but not Agatha's. Anderton downloads the existing visions and he goes to his boss, Director Burgess. The director finds this interesting, but is more worried about Whitwer from the DOJ investigation. Burgess suspects that Anderton is doing drugs, and he needs a fully focused Anderton on board as the pre-crime division is hoping to expand to a nationwide service and not just the D.C. area. Anderton, who is doing drugs, assures him that he will do everything in his power to make sure the feds don't take pre-crime away from them. But a fly is about to be thrown in the ointment. As Anderton goes to work later, he witnesses another murder. Only as he watches the data stream, he learns that the murderer is one that he commits himself. Fortunately for him, most of the rest of the staff miss the flash of his face, and he sends the subordinate out for some coffee while he tries to get as much information on this as he can before the man who watches over the precogs sounds the alarm. As Anderton is leaving the building, he runs into Whitwer, who has been by Anderton's apartment and has discovered that Anderton is a drug addict. In what is one of the best scenes of the movie, Anderton pulls a gun on Whitwer, who is nonplussed.
Seems I found a flaw. Now put the gun down, John. I don't hear a red ball.
That will certainly take the starch out of your collar. So now we get a chase sequence, and Anderton calls his boss, Burgess, to say that Whitwer has somehow set him up. Burgess offers to take him in and keep him safe until they can figure out what is going on. Anderton says that the feds would find him there. Before he can do anything else, his smart car is locked down and begins to drive him back to the police station. Anderton bails out of the car. Meanwhile, back at Burgess's office, Burgess is telling Anderton's second in command to get him, but to make sure that they bring him in alive. Whitwer shows up to inform them that he's taking over the manhunt by order of the Attorney General of the United States. Back with Anderton, we see him in the D.C. sprawl, and there are eye scanners everywhere to target advertising to you specifically, and also for the government to keep track of your whereabouts. Anderton gets on a train, and it notifies the pre-crime unit of his location, and his former team meets him at the first stop. We get a pretty good chase scene involving jetpacks, but I have to admit the wire work can be a bit wonky at times.
Missed it by that much.
Anderton manages to defeat his former crew, but the feds show up for yet another chase, this time through a car factory. Once again, Anderton manages to get away. He then makes his way to the home of Dr. Iris Heinemann, the geneticist who helped to found the pre-crime unit. She was trying to help cure children born from drug addicts when she accidentally created the precogs. Well, the precogs were the survivors of her experiments anyways. And she doesn't see their abilities as gifts, as children would see the murders of everyone within 200-mile radius.
Bogus.
Soon the scientists realized the precog nightmares were actually visions of the future. From that, pre-crime was born. Anderton professes his innocence. He doesn't even know the victim. Heinemann assures him that the precogs are never wrong, but sometimes they don't agree. It turns out that sometimes Agatha will see the future slightly differently from the twins and generate what the scientists call a minority report. Anderton is shocked. He has never heard about the minority report before, and he is the chief of the department. Heinemann says that the reports are destroyed immediately, as it wouldn't build confidence in the general public if they knew that there was a doubt if the crime was actually going to happen or not. Anderton is shocked. Heck, there might be innocent people in jail right now, and he put them there. He wants to know if Burgess knows about the minority report, and Heinemann says yes. She tells him that he needs to find the minority report if he wants to save his skin and bring down the flawed system. That a backup of the report exists in the precog that created it. That precog is the most powerful of them all and is Agatha. Anderton is then off to see a black market eye doctor who can give him a new set of eyes. He needs a new set of eyes to be able to get anywhere near the Precime Center. He meets up with Dr. Solomon Eddy. Dr. Eddy gives Anderton a new set of eyes with the admonition not to open his new ones for 12 hours or he could go blind. Anderton tries to sleep off his recovery and has a nightmare of the day he lost his son. They were at a community pool and his son challenged him to a competition to see which of them could hold their breath underwater longer. While Anderton was underwater, someone grabbed his son and he is never seen again. Anderton wakes up from the nightmare with 6 hours left on his timer. The good news, he was awoken in time for the arrival of his old team. They scan the building and they see a number of heat signatures and announce that they are releasing drone units that will scan the eyes of all of those in the building to see if any of them are Anderton. The drones scan everyone but Anderton, who hides in a bath filled with ice water. He almost gets away, but the drones eventually discover him and force him to reveal one of his eyes. Fortunately, it registers as their former owners, and the police leave empty-handed. Later we see Whitwer and the pre-crime unit going through the images of the murder Anderton is going to commit, trying to get a clue as to where the murder is supposed to occur. Unfortunately, it's at some generic box apartment, and those are scattered all throughout the DC area. Whitwer manages to discover a fourth person in the image stream seen earlier. It looks like a woman. By the time they figure out that it's Agatha, Anderton has already made it into the building disguised as a janitor. Anderton uses his original eyes to get into the temple, grabs Agatha, and exits via an emergency flush drain in the bottom of the pool before Whitwer and the others can get him.
Oh, how convenient!
Whitwer believes that Anderton is trying to prove his innocence by downloading the information in Agatha. The team says that he would need specialized equipment to do such a thing. Whitwer looks at the holographic deck that Anderton has at his desk and discovers the name of the person that put it together for him. Cut to Dreamweavers, a business much like Quark's holosuites from Deep Space Nine, if you're familiar with that show. For those of you that aren't, a holosuite is a room that projects realistic-looking three-dimensional images, allowing you to role-play most anything that you can think of. The 3D technology at Dreamweavers isn't as realistic, and you have to wear a sensory suit to help simulate interaction with the 3D images, but the general idea is the same. We meet his tech genius, Rufus, and he gets Agatha hooked up into the system. Anderton asks Agatha to see his future, and images from the murder start to come up on the screen. It plays out much the same way as earlier, and Anderton screams, "Where is his minority report?" and Agatha tells him she doesn't have one. She then has another vision of the woman who was drowned. She asks Anderton if he can see. Rufus is recording all of this when the vision stops, and Agatha says,
"They're inside."
Who? All your old teammates.
It's the pre-crime unit. Fortunately for Anderton, he has a precog with him and is able to escape. The bad news is, as they make their getaway, Anderton sees one of the faces from the precognition. Turns out, it's a billboard being raised across from an apartment complex. He goes into the apartment complex and flashes a gun to get a look at the registration. He finds the murder victim on the list. Agatha tells Anderton to leave, but now he's curious as to why he would kill him, and he wants to go up to the room to see who he is. Agatha says he has a choice, and he should just walk away. But he can't. He has to know who the guy is. They go up to the room, and it is empty, but there's a large pile of photographs on the bed. Photographs of children that look like they were taken from a distance. He then finds a photograph of his son. He tells Agatha,
I am going to kill this man.
The man arrives, and Anderton proceeds to beat him up. Anderton then draws his gun and is about to kill him when Agatha says you can choose. The alarm goes off on Anderton's watch, and it brings him out of his fury. Anderton then starts to read the man his rights, and the man is confused. He says, "You were supposed to kill me." Anderton is now confused. The man says his family won't get anything unless Anderton kills him. A man got him released, and if he pretended to kill Anderton's son, Anderton would kill him, and the man would give his family a large sum of money. He then begs Anderton to kill him. Anderton is more interested in finding out who set this all up when the man grabs the gun from Anderton and forces Anderton to squeeze the trigger. Cut to a bit later. Witwer and the pre-crime unit is there. Witwer can't believe the scene. He used to work homicide, and he doesn't believe that some child molester would have pictures laying out for anyone to find, especially in a hotel room. Something weird is going on. He calls Burgess and he tells him that he needs to meet him. They meet at Anderton's home so Witwer can update him on what he has found. He has recovered the data from the drowned woman vision from the raid at Dreamweavers, and he noticed that it was slightly different from the one on file at the Justice Department. He says that he thinks someone got away with murder. What if somebody paid somebody else to try to murder a person in a specific way and then replicated the murderer in an identical fashion? It would have to be someone who knows that the precogs sometimes have echoes in which they see the same crime over and over, so the techs ignore and delete the echo thinking that it was a repeat of the same murder. Burgess tells him that with Agatha away right now, there's no effective pre-crime unit. He then shoots Witwer.
Bogus.
As he's cleaning up the scene, he gets a call from Anderton's ex-wife, Laura. She begs him to help Anderton. Burgess asks if Anderton and the precog is there, and we can see a car driving up outside her window. She tells Burgess yes, and he says that he will be there soon. Anderton and Laura are talking about what's going on, and it occurs to him that everything went south once he started to look into the case of the drowned woman. They go to the house and they ask Agatha who killed the drowned woman when she tells them that the pre-com unit is here. This time there is nowhere for him to run, and Anderton is captured, and Agatha is returned to the pre-com division. Later, Laura goes to see Burgess. He wanted Laura to have some of Anderton's effects that he had at work. He also tries to reassure Laura that even though that everything turned out as a hot mess, at least Anderton found their son's killer. Laura asks about the drowned woman. She says that Anderton told her that he was being framed because of her murder. Burgess claims not to know anything about this woman, and he tries to distract Laura by getting her to tie his tie for him. He tries to throw her a bone and says that he will look into the case of the drowned woman, and Laura says,
"But I never said she drowned."
Probably not the best idea to let a possible murderer know that you know that they are lying to you. Laura is saved by the fact that Burgess has a conference to attend. Lucky for her, Anderton's gun is among the belongings that Burgess wanted her to have. Laura goes to the prison and tells the guard that she wants to see her husband. Later that night, at an award ceremony where Burgess announces that pre-crime is going national and he is returning to the head of the department, he gets a call on his private line. It's Anderton, and he spells out how Burgess killed the drowned woman being Agatha's mother, a junkie who had turned her life around and wanted Agatha back. While this is going on, Laura calls Anderton's buddy back at pre-crime, Jad, and asks him to transmit the data stream that Agatha is producing to the award ceremony. Jad agrees, and the video feed of the murder shows up. Not only that, the video feed of Burgess committing the murder shows up as well. Burgess catches a glimpse of Anderton and follows after him. Back at pre-crime, they get a red ball alarm. The victim, John Anderton. The perpetrator, Lamar Burgess. Burgess catches up with Anderton, and Anderton presents Burgess with a conundrum.
If you don't kill me, precogs were wrong and pre-crime is over. If you do kill me, you go away. But it proves the system works.
What to do? What to do? Burgess then apologizes and takes his own life as the pre-crime unit arrives. We then get an epilogue. The pre-crime unit is shut down, all those arrested for pre-crime are released, Anderton gets back with his ex-wife, and the precogs are free living in a cabin in the middle of nowhere so that they won't have visions of murder anymore. The end. And there you have it, Minority Report. A nice little thriller about free will versus predetermination. I really enjoyed the movie and highly recommend it, but I do have questions. It is explained that the precogs can see premeditated murders about 4 days out, but that spontaneous murders are a much shorter time frame. What if someone pays a killer to kill someone a year from now? What do the precogs see? Do they see the payoff, or do they see the murder?
Someone intends to kill his boss or his wife, but they never go through with it. How do the precogs tell the difference?
Precogs don't see what you intend to do. Only what you will do.
So the mastermind goes free? The interesting flaw in the system is that for the murder of Leo Crow, Anderton is seen as the killer by the precogs because he does pull the trigger. But the instigator for the murder is in fact Burgess, as he is the one that has told Crow that if he pretends to be a child killer and lets Anderton kill him, then Burgess will give a large sum of money to Crow's family. And of course, Burgess knows about Anderton losing his son and how it affected Anderton. So, Burgess knows the optimal situation to get Anderton to commit murder, and he certainly deserves his share of the blame. Realistically, I understand that whoever commits the murder is indeed the murderer, but as we have seen, they don't always get there on their own. And I will go a little deeper than that and say that the true mastermind of this tangled web is actually Agatha. When she had the repeat vision of the death of her mother, she then made sure Anderton investigated it by asking, It was at this moment that Witwer and Crow's deaths were set in motion. And since she can see the future, she should know what will become from showing this vision to Anderton. That he will investigate into her mother's death, that Burgess, being behind the death, will try and stop Anderton, and that Witwer's investigation into Anderton will lead him into looking into the death of Agatha's mother as well, and Burgess will have to stop him also. And Agatha has asserted that by knowing the future, you can change the future, that you have a choice.
You have a choice. Walk away. Do it now.
As a precog, she knows the future, and the vision of her mother's death might have been discarded as old data by the pre-crime unit. But, with Agatha grabbing Anderton and asking him what he saw, she drew his attention to that old case, and that turns the ensuing deaths into premeditation. And the deaths of Witwer, Crow, and possibly Burgess could have been avoided if Agatha had only projected the minority report of Burgess killing her mother instead of the report of the killer that was stopped. We know that the data is still there because she projects it at the end of the film during the award ceremony for the crowd to see. But then that wouldn't have led to the precogs being set free. They were slaves after all, forced to see murder after murder after murder. The only way to be set free is to discredit the pre-crime unit and shut down the program. So, are 3 lives worth justice for the murder of Agatha's mother and the 6 years of forced slavery by the precogs? You be the judge. The movie was directed by Steven Spielberg, best known for Jaws, Close Encounters of the Third Kind, Raiders of the Lost Ark, and Schindler's List. Spielberg is one of Hollywood's best directors, and you can certainly see his skill up on the screen. It was written by Scott Frank and John Cohen, based off a short story by Philip K. Dick. Frank is known for Get Shorty, Out of Sight, Minority Report, and Logan. Cohen is only known for Minority Report. It starred Tom Cruise, Colin Farrell, and Max von Sydow. They all do a great job. It was rated PG-13, there's some mild graphic violence, and this is not family fare. It has a runtime of 2 hours and 25 minutes, so you'll have to invest a moderate chunk of your day, but it's worth it. It had a budget of $102 million, and it made $358 million, so even with Hollywood accounting, it made a profit. IMDb has it at 7.6 out of 10, Metacritic has it at 80 out of 100, and Rotten Tomatoes has it at 89% per critics and 80% per audience scores. So you can see it is generally well regarded. I myself, I really enjoyed it and would give it an 8 out of 10. This is certainly one to see. As always, thanks for watching, and until next time.
It's one small step for man,